and I know where you guys stand, but not to put words in your competitor's mouth because I know you don't want to do that, nor can you because you're not them. Do you
Well,
think?
actually, I'm about to, so go
Oh,
ahead.
Welcome back to Whiskey and Windage, the 2A podcast for the people, by the people. I am Matt from Burning Powder Kicking Brass, and I am joined by my co-hosts Adam from Silver Bullet and Mike from OCA. How we doing today, boys?
man, this is. Whew, I'm just loving life lately. That's all I can say. I'm happy.
I'm awkward. It's Monday night. It's
Man, it
not
don't matter,
Sunday.
bro. I'm happy.
It's
dude.
not
Life
Sunday.
is good. Life is
We're
good.
not recording. It's weird. Sorry we couldn't record yesterday. My baby girl had her first communion, so had some family party stuff
your
at the end.
grandbaby. Your grandbaby, right?
No, this is my baby.
Oh, your baby baby.
Ain't my grandbaby.
Yeah,
it's
he's
my
your
baby. But no. So we had family stuff. But great guest. He was gracious enough to let us come in on Monday. But yeah, dude, it's weird. But Matt, I'll let you talk more about it. But it did set us up for moving release days.
It did set us up for moving release days. So if you're watching this, that means it's at least Whiskey Wednesday.
Wednesdays, baby.
So from here on out, it's the workload's getting bigger. The production is starting to take a little longer. So we're having a hard time with a 24-hour turnaround of recording Sunday, getting it up and posted Monday night to be ready for Tuesday. So
Shout out,
we're
Mike.
just
Shout out, Mike. Shout out, Mike.
Shout out Mike. Shout out Mike. He's definitely the Whiskey
Your boy
and
is
Windage
tired.
MVP.
He's
Your
tired.
boy
He's
is
tired.
tired.
Hey, flowers. You
So-
get flowers.
Yeah, we're gonna give him a little break and start dropping episodes on Whiskey Wednesday, but it plays in with the alliteration of whiskey and windage. So yeah, Wednesday helps us out. So
Yeah, definitely.
we got a great guest today, though, boys. I'm pretty excited.
Man, who we got today? Who we got?
A great American company. Great.
What did you just call him? Watch your language. Damn,
We're gonna
he's
need
a
to beep
saint.
that. Hey, guys, that's gonna have to be beeped out. We say some words. but
We're
I
not
don't know
allowed
what
to cuss in the first 2 minutes, and he
No.
doesn't call him in.
That's gonna
I
be a
think
beep.
yeah, we're 4 minutes in. We're all right. No, two minutes and 30 seconds.
No,
we're fine.
we're gonna have to beep that one out. It's okay.
Anyway, a great American company. My
Okay.
bad. Company.
Okay. Well,
Well
better than
established,
the
been
other
around
one.
for a while. They're making small parts. They're making suppressors. We got the man himself, Mr. Chris Graham from Yankee Hill. So
Hell yeah,
he'll be
dude.
joining us on the 2A Spotlight.
dude, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to talk to him. We've got some good questions. We all have some equally lined up stuff where it's, we want to hear about YHM. We want to hear about the origins. We want to hear about the products. We want to hear he's a member of the ASA, so we
Yeah.
get to ask some inside track stuff there. I don't know, man. It's going to be cool. What are you most excited for, Adam?
The future, I think the future suppressors, because we've had other people on the shows about suppressors and getting these people that are making the cans and like what's in store for the next 2 to 5 years, and that's what excites me.
Yeah, I'm most excited for Matt because I want to see if he'll man up and call that man a to his face.
I'm sorry, Chris. Sorry. My tongue got stuck.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
All right, guys, for our 2A Spotlight portion of the show, we are welcomed by none other than Chris Graham, Yankee Hill Manufacturing, YHM. Chris, how's it going, man? How you doing today?
Not too bad. How about you guys?
Man, loving life.
Man, can't
Good, bro.
can't complain too much. Can't complain too much. I'm so glad we finally got this podcast together. So glad we had to jump through a couple of hurdles. Nothing big, but we finally wrangled it in. But
Got it.
man, starting to get this going, I was learning a lot. And I know about a couple things that YHM does. I know about more than doing my research, but I didn't know it was a third generation
Yeah.
company.
Yep.
Talk about how YHM got its start.
So, YHM got its start having nothing to do with the firearms industry. It actually doesn't even technically begin with my grandfather.
Okay.
One of his buddies decided he wanted to go into business and start a machine shop. Shortly after he had gotten machines and got things going, he fell ill, and he asked my grandfather to help out. He jumped in, ran the shop, got machines running, decided, hey, I kind of like working, for myself and not for the battery manufacturer that I was doing before.
Yeah.
And they just kind of hit it off. My grandfather was really good on the machines, doing, programs and setups and stuff like that. His partner, Red Judd, was really good doing finances and keeping the books straight. And so they just kind of hit it off and
That's what
literally
I
started
need.
out of the buddy's garage.
I need someone to keep books straight. Like I just, I can
It's definitely
spend
not
money
me.
and I can collect money, but I can't make them always balance. What were they making? I mean, if you remember, like, it's not important, but like, what were they making when they started that?
Well, I don't remember because it was like 30 years before I was born.
Right.
But I have been told it was basically what's called a screw machine shop, real big in the New England area. And they literally made screws and nuts and bolts and small, typically round, typically threaded components.
Okay.
Nice,
Okay.
nice.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, it's definitely making a lot cooler things now.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. But
Yeah, it
that's
was
that's
pretty
neat.
boring back in the day.
But
I-
you still make some round threaded thingies, right?
We still make quite a large number of round threaded things, yes. They have a little different purpose.
All right. All right.
I mean, it seems like you guys really have evolved through the years, though, too, because I did some research on you, and you guys used to be known to make firearm parts, and no one knew about your suppressors, and now it seems like it's flip-flopped, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I've been in the company my entire life, and it's been really interesting to go to shows. And, when we started doing firearms and suppressors, people would walk by the booth and go, geez, I didn't know you guys made cans and guns. Now people walk by and go, I didn't know you guys made parts. It's like, we were the parts guys, like back in the 90s and 2000s. That was our hardcore niche.
No, for
Yeah,
sure.
and I heard that you guys, sorry to cut you off, Adam, but I heard, I was listening to something, and I think it was you made the rods for the cleaning kits for the, was it the M1s?
M16s.
M16s. Okay,
Yep.
okay. You guys, when did you stop, or do you continue to make those, or when did you stop?
So, you want the whole story?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, let's hear it. I love that.
So, Springfield Armory, the original Springfield Armory in Springfield, Mass.
Not
is
the sucky one now. Just joking. Just joking. My words,
No,
not
it's not.
yours.
No, it's
My
not.
words, not
Yeah,
yours.
it's our words. Our words.
Sponsors are dropping right now.
You have sponsors?
Your sponsors.
Oh no, we don't have
Oh,
Oh,
sponsors.
no. We don't have any sponsors.
Sponsored by Whiskey and Windage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sponsored by Mike.
Yeah, sponsored by my wife, who's really mad at me.
So the original Springfield Armory, Springfield, Mass, was still an active armory at the time in the early 60s. My grandfather marched down there and said, I want to make parts for you guys. And they marched him back out and said, that's not how it works. So he filled out all the forms and paperwork and stuff that he needed to do and actually ended up becoming a government contractor. This was the mid to late 60s. And if, we're all familiar with the M16 at that point, it was basically a big failure in Vietnam because it was sold as a gun that doesn't need to be cleaned. And they very quickly realized that, yes, it actually does. And so they needed to start supplying a cleaning kit. And so my grandfather worked with the Army engineers down at Springfield Armory, developed the cleaning kit, and we ran them on our machines from then up until middle of 2017.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. So see, that's something like lots of people don't know. I mean, it seems to me like I've known about YHM for a while, and I mean, years and years and years. But it seems like maybe it's just me or just my area, but it seems like it's just now starting to. Past 5 years, it's starting to make headway, and it's starting to become more popular, which is a great thing. But it's like even back then, you guys were dealing with government contracts. I mean, you guys have been in the game a while.
Yeah, I mean, we've been killing it for a long time, but like you said, it's really been the last 5-10 years that we've really changed our mindset from being a manufacturer to being a brand. And so we've focused a lot of our, marketing efforts and things on being, more about YHM and who we are and why we do the things we do instead of these are parts we make.
Gotcha.
I think that's important because I think that in in the early days of anything, there's going to be some companies, no matter what you're building, that, you know, they're going to stand out because of their quality and their tolerances and their attention to detail.
Yeah.
And I believe that after a while, everyone, you know, there's rarely a secret sauce. There's rarely magic. Everyone's building almost the same thing. And as long as you're QCing correctly, people are going to support who they feel they've had a connection with. And that brand, hearing these stories, hearing about your family, you know, hearing those things, that's what gives these people connections, and that's what builds that brand loyalty. And I love that. I love that.
No, and it's awesome. It really is. And I'm curious because, like, you know, you guys do make parts. Like you said, you make muzzle brakes. You actually have uppers and lowers, if I'm not mistaken, and full rifles. But, like, obviously suppressors are a big part of what you guys do. But, like, right now, present day, in the future, like, what's kind of your guys' focus, or where does Yankee Hill want to go with that? Is it more suppressors? Is it more firearms?
So traditionally, we've always tried to kind of balance, you know, our three arms or legs of the company. We've got the suppressors and their supporting components. We've got straight up accessories to accessorize other ARMs, other firearms. And then we've got our complete firearm lineup, you know, whether that's a complete gun or just an upper receiver. You know, we kind of lump those under the same group. And we always try to keep a decent balance between the two. But obviously, you know, as the market changes, as one part becomes more popular than the other, you know, we devote more time to that because we want to make sure that it doesn't get stagnant. But
Gotcha.
you know, a good example is obviously suppressors are killing it right now. I mean, we just can't keep up with demand.
Well, those wait times are down too.
Champagne problems.
Yeah. But, you know, we're still not ignoring our accessory lineup just because suppressors are doing well. We're still R&Ding things there. We're looking at different handguard designs and things like that. You know, compensators and muzzle brakes. You know, we've always kind of been, you know, not guys who like to put all their eggs in one basket.
Gas blocks. Nice. I've used some Yankee Hill gas blocks.
Yep. Mm-hmm. It's amazing, you know, even, you know, guys who have our cans now, they come back and say, yeah, I've had your original handguard on my gun for 20, 30 years now, and it still works great. It's like, yep.
Oh, look at that.
There's a T2, and that dude has been burnt to shreds. And
it looks like our shop cans.
And it is still going hard. And it's still, I'll go on record now, it is still the quietest 5.56 can I own. So,
well, Mike, that's a good question too, and that's something like we were talking about. Like suppressors, like we've talked about this a lot, kind of fall into two categories. Like usually you're like civilian, light, quiet, or you get into like the government, louder but rugged. You know, more like the I'm not gonna say names, but we know who we're talking about. But where does Yankee Hill fall? Are you guys both in the middle? Where do you guys fall in that?
So I would say definitely not. I don't think I could say I fall to either side of that, really. So when I set out to make a suppressor, my first thought is it's got to be quiet.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
My man.
If I'm going to design a pickup truck, it's going to have a bed. You can't design a pickup truck and not put a bed in it.
Yeah.
And so that's always kind of my number one goal. Things like, you know, weight and durability and other feature set, you know, to me comes secondary to how does it sound.
Gotcha.
I'm with you there. Because I'm the guy that I don't see war right now. We don't see anything stateside that warrants having the bomb-proof, bulletproof suppressors right now. We want them as quiet as we can get them, and then the second requirement is light as possible, please.
Yep.
Those are the only two that's like for everything that seems like us four do, you know.
Yeah.
So we always kind of go quiet and then durable, you know, and then
that's important too. I'll give you that. That's important too.
You know, because there obviously is a trade-off to some degree between durability and weight.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, we always like to say, you know, that our cans are full auto rated. They're all full auto tested. For the vast majority of people, that has no bearing on how they're actually going to use their suppressor. But it's
Not
just
at
kind of
all.
like that standard, like, well, if it can stand up to full auto, I know it's built way more than I need it for.
Yeah. I think that
You know, it's
T2. So I think that T2's up to. I think my round count on it's right at around 7,500 rounds. So I mean, it's getting up there, but it's still got some life.
Oh yeah.
That's a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a lot. More than most people, I bet.
Yeah, we've got the original shop cans that have tens of thousands of rounds through them, and sometimes we'll just take out old models and just beat them up just to keep putting rounds through them and see what happens.
Heck yeah.
You know, because our customers who have original Phantom 5.56s are still out there shooting them, so we should still be too.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So, we noticed that you guys do advertise DB ratings, which is something that not everybody does, and we love to see. Yeah, they're kind of scared, I think. And maybe it's fear from not being able to standardize, the testing parameters. But are you guys testing everything the same way, regardless of the suppressor and regardless of the calibers?
Yeah, so we test everything to the older mill standard.
Okay.
It's definitely not a perfect system, but it's the closest system we've got where everybody can kind of set up the same equipment.
Yeah.
So that's the mill standard, 1.6 meters above the ground, 1 meter to the left of the muzzle. We also, at the same time, measure 6 inches off the shooter's ear on the right-hand side. We publish the decibel numbers because that's what the specification calls out, but we actually have data on at-ear numbers as well.
Nice.
And we do that just for complete transparency. We, back in the day, listed decibel reductions, but that's really tricky because, what are you shooting for ammo? What are you shooting for elevation? What was the humidity like that day? What was the temperature? These are all factors that come into play. So it's really easy if you're just listing a decibel reduction to go out and, shoot a really loud, hot, unsuppressed round and then shoot a really soft, well-performing suppressed round and be like, oh, look, we got 40 decibels of reduction. When if you look apples to apples, you might only be 32.
Yeah.
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 No, that's true. That's true. I appreciate that you guys put it out there. And, I think there's a couple others that do it, but I think you got, I think it's helpful because at the end of the day, I'm an SOT, so it's kind of easier for myself. It's like, hey, I can order something and, wait a week or two and shows up in the mailbox and it's like, oh, here it is.
Mr. Fancy Pants.
Yeah, that's my little soft flex. Sorry, but like,
Well, yeah, but a week or two, that's average for 4.4s now. So
see,
yeah.
But the average consumer at rewind the clock 6 months ago, they were paying a couple $100 up to $1,000 or more, and you're having to wait 9 months only to get a can and be
9
like,
months? I waited over
damn.
a year. I waited over a year for my first can.
Yeah, but and then you're like, damn, I wish I could have shot this first. So, or I wish I knew more about this, shout out Surefire.
Yeah,
I wish I could have shot this
bought
first.
My Surefire can, I'll be honest.
I wouldn't have bought mine, and I
bought
didn't
my
even have to
Surefire
wait.
can.
It sure is tough, Adam.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yep.
You need something to
Sure
prop your
is
door
tough.
open? I got you
I
something.
got an RC too, don't worry.
Well, that's why these events like CanCon and Suppressed Fest are awesome for the consumer. I wish they would have more suppressed-only events like this because unless you actually get out there and shoot them side by side, even the decibel numbers don't tell the whole story.
No,
they don't. They don't.
There's a lot about the tone of it. It makes a huge impact on how it sounds.
Exactly. And I shoot outdoors. I've got a bay outside. So when I've got customers that are interested in cans, it's like, hey, let's go outside. Let's shoot out here. I've got quite a few, and it's, hey, we'll thread some on rifle, pistol, PCC, whatever it is, and like, hey, here's these 5 or 6 brands. Shoot what you like, and then after that, we'll go get you one ordered.
Well, I think that's a good point you made, though. And we were just at Pew Party 3, and I think we talked to Zach, Chad, and Mark there. We got to shoot some of your cans there. We shot the shit with them, literally shot the shit with them, and got to shoot your cans. But there were other people out there too with suppressors, other companies. But it was cool to be out there, shoot suppressed guns, and get the real feel for it. So it was kind of nice to have that aspect where, like, most people don't have that luxury of shooting all these different cans. So going to places like CanCon or Pew Party 3, that was really
there was a lot of cans out there.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, some of these events, they might cost 20, 30, maybe $50 to get into.
Yeah.
But just to have that peace of mind and not second guess yourself on a, multi-$100 purchase, totally worth it in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
You spent that. We spent that, though. We went and we spent, I think it was like $45 or $50. And we spent that in just the ammo. So it was like that we got to shoot. So it's like, definitely.
Oh, yeah. Your guys let us shoot like all the ammo. I don't know how much ammo they were supposed to shoot. They were letting us shoot all the ammo.
I heard you guys at the time, though, because I was really hoping to meet Brenna at the time. And I'd asked if you were coming out. And she was like, no, we're we're actually doing something else. And then I end up talking to a buddy of mine, Justin, who's over at Silencer Shop, and he's like, yeah, they're coming over here to shoot with us. I'm like, oh, they're too cool. So
I mean, Dave is cooler than Pew Party 3.
Dave's cooler than us, but in a couple weeks, actually, Dave Matheny's hopping on. So he's coming on. His podcast will drop Memorial Day weekend, but it's I do have to call him out and say, hey man, why'd you take the Yankee Hill guys from us at this event? Just to see what he says. He's not going to care.
Dave is finally coming up to visit the plant after talking about it for like 8-10 years now.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
'cause every time he talks about it and has time, it's like January. It's like, dude, you don't want to come to Western Mass in January.
No.
Like, come up here in the summer when it's like at least decent.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You don't want to. Yeah. That just the weather would just make the trip like, oh man.
Oh no.
When
heck
you're
no.
used to Texas weather. When you're used
Yeah.
to Texas weather.
Guys, we were almost 100 degrees today in Texas. I'm saying, yeah, it was hot one today. Yeah. But I'm just curious. So, like, Chris, so we got to shoot some of the cans out there. I personally like the Fat Cat. That was my favorite one to shoot. What is your favorite can that you guys have? Like, what's your go-to can? Actually, here I'm gonna second that. What is your go-to can and your go-to rifle right now?
Go-to can is the Resonator R2.
Okay.
I absolutely love that can. Doesn't matter what caliber I'm shooting. If it fits through the bore, I'm grabbing the Resonator.
Ooh. Speaking
yeah.
dirty, he just talked dirty to us, I think.
I love that.
Yeah.
I was excited. I got to shoot the Bad Larry. The Bad Larry was fun. I shot that.
Yeah.
I did shoot the Fat Cat, and
Yep.
I don't know who came up with the alternate front cap.
Yeah, the front
But
cap is cool.
kudos to them because I loved it. It reminded me of the tattoo the guy has on his belly button of the cat. It's like his cat butt. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is awesome. So whoever did that, props to you guys. And then
Well,
Matt, you
That
shot
thing was
one.
the cat's ass, dude.
Yeah.
Well, you guys met Chad down at Pew Party 3, right?
Yeah.
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 That was Chad's baby.
Okay.
Oh, gosh.
Nice.
How did
Yeah.
that? So to ask you as as one of the executives or the executive,
The boss.
yeah, how did that pitch happen? I just have to ask, like,
Hey, boss,
Chris,
I have an
this
idea.
What do you think? Picture this suppressor, cat's ass. What do you think? Like, how
So-
did that go?
Full
So
send.
we have been calling, our short, fat 5.56 suppressor the Fat Cat. That was sort of our code name. Obviously, it ended up becoming the actual product name. And so just kind of as a joke, like a couple of weeks before SHOT Show, he showed us a 3D rendering of the muzzle cap, and we were like, you know what, dude? You get one done for SHOT Show, we're going to bring it and see how it does. And it just
Cat's ass.
blew up the internet at SHOT Show. We were like, all right, it's the cat's ass. It's got to be a thing.
Yeah.
I
we have to
love
make this
that.
now.
I love the generational shift in Second Amendment companies and the things that they name their products. Like it's no longer full of FUDs. Everybody's
No.
not quite so PC and boring anymore. There's some funny stuff out there.
We've always kind of played things a little conservative, and that was kind of our first branch out into like, let's actually have fun with something.
Oh yeah. That was
And
good. That was
I
good.
think that just kind of goes along the same kind of thing. If I said we're promoting the brand now, it's like we're people. We like to have fun. We like to crack jokes, and
That's great.
here's a cat's ass on your suppressor.
So
I mean,
speaking-
you're only seeing it if you're on the wrong side of the gun. So
Yeah, well, I don't know. I had to clear it as soon as he said it, and he goes, "Here's the Fat Cat," and I was like, "Does that have the cat ass?" He was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Hold on, drop the mag, clear the bolt open." I was like, "I have to spin this around and look at it," and he just looked at me. He knew I didn't. It's like, "All right, you cleared it. It's cool," but I'm like, "I have to see this thing." I know
It's
everybody
amazing.
else.
It's amazing how many people we show that suppressor to, and we show them the two. We're like, we've got two end cap options. They just kind of go, "Oh, that's cool," and they don't see the cat silhouette right away. They just see the actual bore, and then we're like, "No, like look closer," and they go, "Oh my god!"
Matt saw the cat.
Every single time.
I think Mike saw the cat's ass, no problem.
Oh yeah, I saw it. I knew it was there. I was like, "Oh, I hope it's there."
You just got an eye for that, or what?
Yeah, dude, I got an eye. I'm that guy.
The third
I don't
eye.
know why. Yeah,
You counted the
brown
wrinkles.
eye for that.
I'm just waiting to see like the cat's ass like brands come out, where people are like, instead of cooking bacon, they're like, "Look what I did! I got my cat's ass brand on my thigh now." Please don't do that.
Oh.
We don't recommend that.
no.
We don't endorse that.
Oh God, yeah, don't
That's a
do
real-
that. But
that's a
oh
real.
man,
Don't
that
do
would
that.
hurt.
But if you do,
Send a picture.
Send a
Share
picture.
it, please.
Yeah,
Yeah.
share.
Don't do
Collaborate.
it. Send a picture.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Hashtag
do
cat's
it,
ass.
with like
Yankee
maybe
Hill.
do it with like a hog. Like shoot a hog, Shade
Yeah,
of
there you go.
Sexton,
Actually,
Brand
from
a
now
hog.
on, every cat's ass, just collab Yankee Hill on Instagram on it. So.
Hashtag cat ass. So speaking of the cat's ass and speaking of the fat cat and 5.56, like I said, I've got a T2, I've got a Turbo K. 5.56,
Mm.
it is a beast to suppress just because it's a powerful charge. It's a lot of speed. It's a big bang.
Yep.
And a lot of guys try to do it and they do it unsuccessfully. You guys, it seems like, for hearing safe or, able to just sit there with light ear pro or no ear pro. And of course, we always recommend ear pro, guys. But for idiots like us, I don't use the ear pro as much as I should. How are you guys able? I guess you just have a formula, but you guys are literally making cans that are more quiet, that are lighter, and that are, in some cases, half or even 60%, 70% less expensive than other suppressors on the market. So I want to give you guys, kudos for that. But
It's well priced.
how are you guys able to just consistently replicate that in everything you do?
I think a lot of it comes back from our history of manufacturing. We literally sit down from start to finish and decide what's this thing going to look like? What do we want it to sound like? How are we going to make it? What materials are we going to use? What tools are we going to use to cut it? We get all that figured out, and then we look at it again and say, okay, can we do it better? Can we do it with fewer operations, which helps reduce the cost? Can we do it with a different material, a different tooling to make it last longer? Literally start to finish and constantly looking for ways to improve the product through the manufacturing and through the specs. And most companies start with a 22 suppressor because, let's be honest, you can do just about anything inside of a tube, and 22 sounds pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Our first suppressor was 5.56.
Man,
Oh, yeah.
Most guys do not start with that cartridge.
Oh no, they're scared of it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you can master the 5.56, you're already a leg up on a whole lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's definitely cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys out there who don't even offer a 5.56 can. They just tell you shoot the 30.
And that's
Yeah.
I mean there's pros and cons to that though too. Like I think that having a 30 cal can is very versatile. So like I do tell people a lot of times, hey, what can should I get first? Well, I mean, a 30 cal can gives you a lot of options at least.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
a nice 5.56 can dedicated that's nice.
Yeah. Shave a couple inches off, save a few ounces on the end of the muzzle.
I don't save inches. We keep all the inches.
He needs every he can get, from what I'm told. But yeah, well, there's
I just love how you have that like on hand right now.
Adam lies constantly, so we always have to be ready.
I have
always.
2 of them.
Yeah. Oh man.
Wow.
Back up.
Wow.
So, I'm going to ask you something because we sent over some questions and stuff that we wanted to ask, and this is something we haven't asked publicly yet, and you're going to be one of the first people we talk to about it, because we want to try to get the suppressor industry involved in this somehow, and our goal is to for some reason SBRs for the NFA is just stupid. We can all argue about how it's stupid and they shouldn't be there, but for some reason they still pass it. So like that just seems like a daunting task. We're never going to get approved. I think right up next to that is going to be full auto. I mean, I agree with our rights. I'm not here to argue that, but I think that's going to be a hard one. I think the easiest out of the three is going to somehow try to be getting suppressors removed from the NFA.
Yep.
I know it's going to be hard. I know there's going to be lots of time, and it probably won't be in my lifetime, but I would love to see it. But I'll start the questioning by saying, quoting American Rifleman Magazine, 2 million suppressors over the last 10 years. I believe that's classified as common use. If for some reason the NFA dropped suppressors and said, hey, you can just buy them like you buy bullets, slings, and magazines, how do you think
be great?
How do you think sales would be, and what do you think it would actually do to the market from a manufacturer's perspective?
Well, let me start this conversation by just saying I think the NFA in general is kind of a set of rules that exist just because they wanted to quote unquote do something. You know, NFA was designed originally to prohibit or make difficult the sale of handguns. They couldn't get handguns to go through, so they were like, okay, short rifles, short shotguns.
It was it stopped gangsters in like the Al Capone days, right? That was what
they thought it stopped gangsters.
Yeah. They threw silencers.
It didn't work.
Yeah. Oh, this is more illegal? Oh, I guess it should stop now.
Yeah.
And then they kind of threw suppressors in at the last minute because they said, oh, silencers, that sounds scary. Let's put that in there too. And then, you know, they amended full auto into there too. So I think the whole thing from the start was just, you know, kind of a failure, you know, of government of just taking away what they could because they wanted to take away something.
Thanks, government.
But to your actual question, I think we're seeing the effects of what that would have right now. You know, we, in a matter of days, went from 10-month ATF wait times to 10 days, in some cases less, and demand has just skyrocketed.
Yes.
You know, I hear it over and over and over again from the same people for years now. Oh, I'll buy a suppressor when the wait isn't as long. It's like, if you had bought it 10 years ago when we first talked, you would have had it for 9 years now.
Exactly. Yeah. I tell people all the time.
So I think the wait time is a big deterrent, especially since, you know, like you said before, you're paying for the suppressor up front. You know, you're throwing down a lot of money, waiting a lot of time, and then when it comes in, you're hoping it's everything you expected it to be.
Yes.
I think that turns a lot of people away. And we're seeing a huge increase now that wait time has gone down.
Absolutely.
And then you've got your guys who think that by buying NFA items, they're going to be on some special government list.
I hate that.
Cue the tinfoil helmets.
You're already on the list. If you're any sort of good American, if you're watching the
podcast, you're on the list.
But it's the special NFA list because there's this creepy background check and everything. Which,
God.
Which, you know, if you actually know anything about that, it's literally a NICS check.
Yes.
ATF sends the information to FBI. They perform a NICS check, and then it comes back and goes back in the paperwork pile. So there's nothing scary about, you know, having an NFA background check done. So if you're worried about that, just go do it, guys.
Yes.
But yeah, I think we're kind of seeing the last holdouts now of guys that, you know, don't want to be on this list, basically because there's the registration process and they just feel like it's, you know, government encroaching on their ability to just buy and sell things that they feel they can do freely. Yeah. So I think just a lot of it, you know, from a moral standpoint, I'm not going to give the government $200 and my fingerprints and all this other stuff just to say, yes, you can buy this.
I mean, if you're paying income tax, then you've already given it to the government. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean, but do
income
you
tax and sales tax and excise tax and property tax?
Yeah, you've already given it to the government.
Inheritance tax.
I've paid tax on my tax up the tax, so like it just happens.
Yeah.
But what do you think it would do to the market? I mean, you are one of the rare companies that are. I have to say this. I have to word it carefully because I don't want it to make it sound negative. You are economically priced, because I don't want to say cheap, because you're not a cheap product. No. It's an economically priced. It's priced well for the consumer.
Not taking out a mortgage to buy your stuff.
But we all know, and I'm not getting into your business, but if we look at it, everyone tells us. I mean, suppressors are high margin, you know, products. Just because once you have the plans, once you do everything, you're cutting through them. I mean, you're not making them for pennies on the dollar. I get that, but they are low margin. But you have some guys that are building things that are similar to yours and similar to other economically priced suppressors for $1,000. I see them now for $2,000 with Fireball.
Try 3,000. Aren't they close to like almost 3?
I don't know. I'm just looking at my dealer calls. Sorry, I said that.
Dealer costs. Yeah.
Whoops, I wouldn't buy it anyway. I'll sell it at my dealer calls because it's a turd. But anywho, I don't want to get yelled at for ripping people off. But
it's fire though. It's fire though.
Do you think it would force the other guys to drop their price? Because at that point,
absolutely.
I think you would have to also, unfortunately, and I know the here come the aluminum foil helmet guys are going to come after me again, but you're going to get a whole lot of guys that are, oh, well, I'm going to make my own now. I'm going to order I'm going to order all my, my oil solvent traps
My
that's,
washers in my mag light.
Yeah, exactly.
and it's like,
exactly.
man, that's cool. Like, do you, if that's what you want to do. And now that's a third thing you're competing with. You're competing with, you're competing now with that as well. But I think it would make things honest. But honestly, I don't think it would affect your business the way you're set up and the way that you're priced. I don't think it would affect you in a negative way. I think it would affect you in nothing but positives. How do you feel on that?
Being a manufacturer of the mindset that we are, I 100% think that would help us.
Mm-hmm.
If suppressors become, a easily accessible, potentially disposable item, we could make a really effective, really cheap suppressor where if you needed a new one in 5 years, it wasn't a big deal to go buy one. Like changing the tires on your car.
That's awesome.
We are 100% ready to go on that. That's something we could do really, really, really easily, and I think we could get behind. But to your point, as like, the garage warriors and stuff like that, I mean, we've got the same thing going on with, 3D printed guns, and, you've got your CNC desktop machines and stuff like that.
Right.
You've always been able to make your own firearm, but it still hasn't stopped the firearms industry from existing, because what you can do at home with simple machinery is not nearly what you can do with, millions of dollars of complex CNC controlled equipment.
Exactly.
I'm not taking up for the NFA, and I'm not taking up for the ATF on this. The only issue I have with homemade 3D printed guns and homemade cans are the fact that as a manufacturer, if I make something, I've got to roll mark my name in it.
Yep.
You know that drill. And if something goes wrong and there is an accident and it's due to the fact that I built something in QC, let something out of QC that was just terrible and it harmed someone, like, we're on the hook for that.
Yep.
What I dislike is the guy in the garage with a 3D printer who might just try to save $1 and buy a cheaper filament and print out some stuff that ends up hurting someone.
Yeah.
And, that's the only negative. And I'm not saying that's why you shouldn't be able to do it. I'm just saying that's an inherent risk of getting anything done by any person that makes something in their garage on the side.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could apply the same logic to vehicle modifications.
Exactly.
So, you could buy a lift kit that's got springs and shocks and all kinds of things to correct suspension geometry.
Yeah.
Or you could go buy a 6-inch long hunk of steel and shove it under your truck. You'd still get 6 inches taller, fit bigger tires, but it doesn't mean you've got nearly the same system.
No, not at all.
You're right.
So, Chris,
is the end result the same? Yes, sort of.
Part it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's the engineer coming out in you. Some of those classes, man.
Yeah.
Look at that.
So Mike brought up a great point, Chris, and I want to, I know where Yankee Hill sits with if, the suppressors were no longer the NFA and everyone could just buy them readily. And I know where you guys stand, but not to put words in your competitor's mouth, because I know you don't want to do that, nor can you, because you're not them. Do you think?
Actually, I'm about to, so go ahead.
Sweet. So my question is, my question is, I know you guys are for it, but I think it's, do you think other manufacturers would be for it, or would they look at it as now we can't sell these suppressors for as much money as we do, and then it would hurt them, quote unquote?
Definitely the second one. When we started producing silencers, and honestly, we were kind of the front runners to market an affordable suppressor to the public. When we started doing suppressors in 2005, there were a couple of companies that made suppressors for government contracts, and if they had overruns, well, there's a sum available to the public. They weren't really pushing the fact that you can own these things and you could afford them. We were actually making components for another suppressor manufacturer at the time. And they literally said to us...
It sounds like a dead air thing to do.
This is way before dead air.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, they just white label everything.
Yeah. But they literally said to us, like, person to person, like, why aren't you charging more for these? You can get twice as much as you're selling them for. And we just looked back at them and said, because I have to look at myself in the mirror every day. I can't go to bed knowing I ripped off every single person who bought my product.
I
You
respect
know, and at the same token, you know, they're selling, you know, in 2005, a $1,000 suppressor plus the $200 tax stamp. We were selling a $500 suppressor. It's like, I'd rather make 3 nickels than 1 dime.
Yeah. Yeah.
I respect
Man, that's
that.
old school. That's an old saying right
Yeah,
there. I
can
love
respect
that.
So, but also, is that the problem with the NFA? Because it's the same thing with people that own all those pre-banned machine guns. They don't want machine guns to be legal because all those expensive machine guns they own,
Those investments are gone.
they're gone. So my question then is, do you think the part of the problem is the suppressor manufacturers that would lobby in a way behind closed doors to keep it on there to keep their profit margins up? I know it's a tinfoil thing.
Oof.
No, I'm a board member of the ASA, the American Suppressor Association, and you know, we're on calls all the time with all the big guys.
Okay.
And they're all behind taking suppressors out of
Okay.
the NFA because they know it would make just suppressors more approachable. I don't think they'd be on the bandwagon of making them inexpensive right away.
Okay.
No, you got to cash in while you can.
Capitalism. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But no, I think they all know that it's the right thing for the industry, and it's honestly makes the most sense from a common sense standpoint.
So speaking of the ASA, I do want to jump in and ask a question then. You're on the board in the ASA, all of that. Have you guys ever thought to look? I know you said the mill standard for, you know, measuring the sound levels of suppressors, but has anyone ever looked at it and treated it from the, I guess, the OSHA standpoint, where OSHA, you know, you've got to run your tests on your ear pro, whether it's in ear or over the ear. You know, on mufflers, it's ANSI, I think, or ASI, whatever it is. But there's this standard. And do you think the suppressor industry, if they played by those rules, and just basically said, hey guys, starting in, like, my idea of what should happen would be, you know, the ASA come up with something like this and say, hey guys, starting in 2028, give you guys enough time to call an audible.
Yep.
If you follow this specific testing procedure, which gets us tested through a third party, through OSHA, we're allowed to do all this. I don't know. You can roll mark like an ear on it or something for hearing state, something. And do you think you'd have a better leg to stand on going to the government saying, hey, this is an accessory to a tool. This isn't a tool itself. This is actually an accessory that we should be using because it's actually helpful in that field.
So there's like 3 questions in there. I'll try to answer all of them.
Yeah, sorry. I'm long-winded, man. I'm really long-winded.
Soapbox.
Broad question.
Yeah.
So number 1 is the ASA has actually been working on something like that for a number of years.
Okay.
They're getting pretty close to rolling out the final version, I think.
Oh, yeah.
If anyone's familiar with the sound suppressor testing summit that happened at Thunder Beast Arms last year, that was kind of like a dry run of some of the new proposed measurement standards.
Mm-hmm.
So they are working on something there. The issue with the system is it's going to be sort of open source. You know, the ASA doesn't really have the means of the manpower to come up with, you know, an OSHA standard or an ANSI standard and go out and certify test labs and, you know, do all this calibration and make sure that everybody's on the same page. So there's going to be a little bit of an honor system to it. But the goal is basically to bring up the standard everybody's using now to actual modern times with modern digital equipment. Now, the old standard literally relies on analog equipment. It's that old. And so that's been in the works. And I think it's going to help the average consumer kind of compare apples to apples. But there's a lot that's gone into it. Like I said, it's been a number of years that they've been working on getting the system developed. And they're still working out some final kinks. There's a couple of things I like about it, a couple of things I don't. As far as, you know, that being taken to the government and saying, you know, look, these are hearing protection devices.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't think they care. And I think the public perception is that these things are silencers. They're not suppressors. They're not gun mufflers.
Yeah.
They think John Wick. You're going to be shooting at somebody across a subway and no one else is going to be any the wiser.
And I think it's also in the marketing. We need to get I don't know. We need to get one of these marketing companies that claims to be a parts manufacturer in here and do this, because I think in the marketing, having a DB rating is amazing, but also when you look at buying Ear Pro, it just tells you, hey, it knocks 30 dB off. Instead of, hey, it's a silencer, it's also like, hey, yeah, this thing is, this knocks 30 dB down to make it hearing safe at 128, which is still the equivalent of a jet engine.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, we're not over here whispering.
No, but we're helping people not have hearing problems that do. So like my son has autism, and loud noises are horrible for him. So to have a kid like that try to shoot a gun ever, or have someone that's intimidated by guns, but being able to suppress a gun and welcome people into the industry, or people with disabilities, I think that's a huge niche that we could get into. I mean, or in Europe, right? In Europe, suppressors aren't a big deal. It's actually like a normal thing to have a suppressor on your weapon if you can have one in certain countries.
Yeah. If you want to use public land for hunting or public ranges, you have to have a suppressor in a lot of European countries.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it from a health and safety standpoint, we regulate every single other loud noise on the planet at the source.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's internal combustion engines, whatever.
Mufflers.
The sound is regulated at the source. You can't have a chainsaw over certain decibels and sell it. You can't have a car over certain decibels and sell it. The one exception to that is firearms. People are afraid to make them safer for the shooter.
It's
crazy.
And it's just because of this public misconception. I had this epiphany, if you don't mind me having a little rant here for a while.
Do it. Let's hear it.
So 5 years ago, I was at Halloween Horror Nights down at Universal Studios. And of course, they have one section where people are running around with chainsaws, with no blades on them. And all the girls are freaking out and hiding. People are running away. And this just kind of clicked. Like, when I hear chainsaws, I think it's time to cut firewood. And that's the end of it. I had this realization that this is exactly what's happening with the general public and firearms. When they see chainsaw or hear chainsaw, the only exposure they have to it is in a horror movie where someone's getting hacked to pieces.
Yes.
The only exposure they have to firearms is when they're watching a movie or a TV show and people are getting shot. They don't see the actual real life application of going to the range or, defending yourself in a home invasion or something like that. They just have it drilled into their heads that when guns come out, people die, because that's all they see in the media.
Yeah, they only see it every 4 years in the Olympics. That's it.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's it.
It's same with the sound effects. So up to the early 2000s, every movie, every sitcom, every show, when someone pulled a gun, they put the sound effect of the gun being racked, which that's not how it works. They pull a gun, it's like
yeah. Whether it was a revolver or a Glock or a shotgun, it all made the same noise.
But even if you pull the gun out, they were just supposed to pull a gun out, and you get the rack sound. Like he just pulled the gun out. But same concept though, right? Like we've put these things in Hollywood, from John Wick and all the way back to 007 James Bond, of what firearms are. It's a misconception of what they really are, and that's a great point.
If the average person didn't own a car, they would think cars were death traps. Because the only time you see in the movies are when they're jumping off of a cliff or ramming into each other or, doing somersaults down the highway.
I'd never get on a bus. Hell.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. And you make a good point there, because it's the same thing as those guys, and it's unfortunate, but it's the same thing as all of those millionaires that went down in that submarine to go see the Titanic. And everyone's like, well, there's no way in hell I'd get in a submarine. And it's like, I don't know, man. Like, that was a bad submarine, but
I wouldn't get in that one. Like
I wouldn't get in that one.
That goes back to your point of the home built versus the actual manufactured.
Yeah, but that's all these people know, and they don't realize that there's a couple thousand subs floating around in the water right now. That some of them are really big and scary and have things on them that you don't want to fire, but you don't hear about those because they're operated and they're maintained in a correct way. So,
well, same thing about, how many individuals are in the air right now on some kind of plane, commercial or private?
Exactly.
Thousands, easily thousands, tens of thousands.
Easy.
And it's no big deal until a tragedy happens, and, then it's all you hear about, because people just love to hear bad news.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even if it's, not common.
Man, that's very true.
So, Chris, with Yankee Hill, what are your goals when making and designing new suppressors? When you make them, are you considering a civilian market or are you considering a military contract? Like, what is the goal, or is it different for each new design?
We're primarily focused on the civilian market. We've done a lot of government contracting. It's surprisingly difficult to get paid for a contract, even though everything's in writing.
It's commercial work, man. It's government, just like all other commercial, man. They'll pay you when they
Completion
pay
plus
you.
90 or 180.
What are you going to do? Come after us with collections? We are collections.
Yeah, we are
We are.
collections.
But yeah, our market, our customer base is the civilian market.
Awesome.
Hell yeah, dude.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I have
an idea.
we always try to meet those, kind of government ideals for the suppressor. Every suppressor that we make, whether we intend it to be Fallout rated or not, goes to the SOCOM test. We beat the living hell out of every suppressors. Because we know if it's going to stand up to that, it's going to stand up to the average guy who takes it out for a couple hundred rounds on a weekend.
But
dude.
I mean, let's be real. Even that consumer still wants to know that it passed the SOCOM test.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it has to be fire. It has to be fire.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
Make sure it's fire. Yeah.
I just want to see somebody make a suppressor that looks like, for Matt's sake, someone needs to make a suppressor that looks like a potato because he's from Idaho. And so if we could actually make one look like a potato, that would be badass.
So
Jesse James's was pretty close.
We could form one just a muzzle device and call it a suppressor.
All right, Chris, I have to ask this because this is a little crazy. We know there's another company that's because Matt's an AK guy. People are scared to shoot AK suppressed. We had to talk about this the other day. There is one other company that makes a specific one. What about you guys? Is that something the AK game that you're interested in doing, or can we just
have you done it?
Have you done it? Yeah.
So we actually don't make an AK specific suppressor. We run the R2 on
Smart.
AKs all the time. Same with the RK.
You heard it. You heard it. There you go.
We're actually one of the few manufacturers that actually just off the shelf standard has AK threaded muzzle devices. Because most guys are afraid to put them on their AKs. Now, if you've got a clapped out AK, please don't put your suppressor on it and blow it to pieces. Make sure it's shooting decent groups and the bullets aren't tumbling. But I mean, there's so many good AK manufacturers now that it's not something you need to be afraid of.
I had to ask that because we had a big discussion about that the other day. It got a little rowdy in some comment sections. AK people are sensitive sometimes, but Matt being an AK guy, and
sometimes. No.
The level-headed AK guy.
Time.
So we got it from Chris, Yankee Hill. You can take your cans and put them on AKs, and it'll work. Well,
and
is
it a direct thread option at that point?
No, so all of our QD muzzle devices, the 30 cal versions, we have the different thread options for AKs.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Dude, that is
awesome. I've been trying to tell people like it's almost a wives' tale of barrel concentricity. Like it's definitely not as good as an AR platform. But stick an alignment rod down in there, and as long as it doesn't got a bow in it like that, like it's probably good.
Like any other gun, there's good ones and bad ones out there.
Yep.
When we started originally doing suppressors, there were a lot of factory threaded AR barrels that were 20, 30,000 soft concentricity from the bore to the threads because they weren't thinking about suppressor application. They were going to slap a flash hider on it, and that's the last they would ever see. That thread would never see the light of day again.
Right.
And people started putting suppressors on them and started having problems. And luckily now the manufacturers are making suppressor-ready firearms that actually have concentric threads.
Yeah.
I love that.
Awesome, dude.
I love that.
So, Chris, we see all these progressions in suppressors, titanium, steel, aluminum, all these different alloys and different baffles, the flow-through technology. In your opinion, for Yankee Hill or just suppressors in general, what's the next progression and what's the future of suppressors?
I think in general, you're going to see the industry kind of start doing a hybridization of flow-through and baffled suppressors.
Okay.
So you're either going to see baffled suppressors designed with reduced blowback, in the T3 and the Fat Cat, or you're going to start to see flow-through suppressors that are chasing, better sound reduction numbers. Because you've got health and safety kind of issues at both end. You've got at the muzzle, the sound, obviously, and affecting your hearing. And then you've got back at the action at the shooter, all these noxious gases and fumes from the combustion of gunpowder. And I think we're going to try to find a better balance between a suppressor that doesn't blow gas in your face, but also sounds good. And I think it's going to be tough, because if you think about what you're trying to do with a suppressor, you basically got a fixed volume of gas, a fixed amount of energy, and you're trying to divert it, turn some of that energy into, heat. That's just one of the reasons why the suppressor gets hot.
Yeah.
And so there's only kind of so much you can do. At some point, physics just takes over and says, without this, beastly, long, convoluted suppressor, you've kind of got diminishing returns at a certain point. The analogy I like to use is, your unfired rifle cartridge is like a balloon blown up with air.
Gotcha.
And an unsuppressed shot is like popping that balloon. All the gas explodes all at once and it makes a loud noise.
Gotcha. I mean, that makes sense.
Now, you take that same balloon, you untie the knot and let the air out slowly over time, you have a longer duration, but much less sound. And there's two ways to accomplish that. Baffles basically trap the gases and make them get lost and swirl and things like that. And flow through designs send them through different channels and things, basically slowing them down and getting them confused before they go out the muzzle. And so I think that you're going to find people chasing to kind of find that happy medium.
So is it going to be through the can itself? Because me and Mike have had this discussion. I'm a guy that runs adjustable gas blocks on my guns with suppressors because I run carbine length a lot. And carbine length with a gun it's an overgas gun, it's not fun to shoot it. I'm sure you know this. So like Mike's kind of the other one. He tunes his guns. Like, what do you think? Is there a happy medium for technology? Is it a little bit of both? Like, where are we going to go with that?
So I think there's two trains of thought. You've got the guy who just wants to stick the suppressor on their gun and go, and not have to deal with being overgassed or being loud. And then you're going to have the guy who is going to fine-tune his gun and get it to run like a Swiss watch. So I think there's going to be a market for both. There's going to be those guys who want the best-sounding suppressor, and they don't care if they have to put an adjustable gas block and spend some time at the range getting things tweaked, even developing their own load. And then you've got guys who just want to throw it on their gun and go.
Yeah.
Send it.
I love it.
Yeah, that's a. Do you think new? Do you guys? I'm trying to think. I got two questions. The first question is, or slow down and think about this. The first question is, I guess as far as the machining goes, are you guys getting into, or are you thinking about venturing into the 3D printing side of metal, or are you already doing that? And then I guess the next question would be, would there be another metal worth bringing in that's going to give you the added benefits? I guess putting my Tony Stark hat on and like trying to, think about that kind of stuff. I mean, and you don't have to answer if you're testing anything. I don't want you to give that away, but do you think, experimenting different metals is a viable option?
So obviously we're a machine shop at heart. We love to take big chunks of metal and turn them into small, useful chunks of metal. But I honestly think that the next logical progression is to look beyond that new technologies like 3D printing suppressors, because there's things you can 3D print that you just literally can't machine, and certainly can't machine effectively. So I can't say that we do or don't have a design that's going to be testing, but I think that's a smart way for us to look at the future.
That's fair.
And as far as the metallurgy is concerned, you can 3D print just about anything that can be welded. And so whether you're looking at stainless steel, titanium, Inconel, stellite, the metal powders are all really similarly priced. So kind of shoot for the moon there. There's no reason to, make something out of a cheap alloy, because, you're really not saving much.
Sounds like you guys have some R&D done here.
Yeah, it's been done, and there's probably
my brain
still
is
more.
Always turning and looking for the next thing. So
awesome.
Yeah, and I don't know who does
That's
your
some
welding,
sort of machining joke.
It's amazing. Your weld guy does a really good job. I like looking at welds too, and I'm admiring these after I've just blown this thing out, and it still looks great.
Yeah, so on the T2, that's our TIG welder, our automated TIG. So our guys in there day in and day out running that, and With the T3s, we started to go to a laser weld system. So I don't know if you've seen the T3s in person, but the welds look phenomenal on those.
Yes.
Um, from a strength standpoint, they're just as good as the TIG. They're just a lot prettier.
Gotcha.
It's a lot faster process too. We can make the cans faster. We can take them out of the machine, and the heat soak isn't as bad. When a can comes off the TIG line, it's got to sit for half an hour before we can grab it. The guy literally takes it off with a set of tongs and sets it on a steel table. Coming out of the laser welder, he takes them out with his hand, checks for run out, inspects the welds, and puts it in the box.
That's awesome.
Wow.
I have a question, since this will be one of my last questions. Thinking about the three generations, are there still lots of family members involved in this? Because I mean,
Yeah, is
every
it
time
still
I hear
mom
you
and
talk,
pop
I hear you say we, and I know that you're talking about we as a company, but also, is there a lot of families still involved in this?
No, and it's kind of good that it isn't, because it's really tough to mix family and business.
Too many chiefs, not enough Indians.
Not even that, just because you get burned out. When we lived at home, me, my brother, and my dad, we spent all day at the shop. We'd go home and we'd talk shop all evening long, and my mom was just like, I can't stand it. You guys need to shut up. At least during dinner, talk about something else.
Sounds like my job. Yes. But
And then, no, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, but that was my first part of the question I was leading into is, since you're third generation and you guys are one of the companies that have weathered and been through the automation, boom in the US. I mean, when YHM first started, it was couple guys, whether it was in a building, a garage, whatever. I mean, every piece was hand turned, everything was handmade, and then you come into automation and computerization, and so now you're able to use that tool. And I guess the question is, does it tug at your heartstrings and you just have to find places for these people? But being that you're third generation, is it tough sometimes knowing that, hey, I might replace a human being's craftsmanship and handiwork with a robot?
Definitely. When I say we, I'm not just talking about my family in the company. I'm talking about my employees too. I know my guys' names. I know what's going on at home. I know
Awesome.
one of my guys' dogs is sick and he had a rough weekend. So when I say we, I mean everybody, not just the guys at the top.
It's a team. I love
Yes.
it.
Oh yeah, man. That's a good boss. That's a good boss.
And, with the automation and things like that, my father was the first one to bring in the computer-controlled equipment. But even before that, the machines that my grandfather ran, and in some cases, machines he built, were automated machines. Stuff that he took manual operations and turned them into operations where, a relatively unskilled worker could load a hopper of unfinished parts and collect a basket of finished parts.
That's the Henry Ford mentality, right?
Yeah.
I love that.
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
And yeah, we try to make improvements to the process where we can. And sometimes that does involve, eliminating or simplifying jobs. But at the end of the day, I'm not out to turn my shop into a shop full of robots, that run off of one remote control where I can sit at my laptop and just monitor the whole thing. People tell us all the time, oh, you can run this machine overnight unattended and just come back to a pile of finished parts in the morning. Well, yeah, you come back to a pile of finished parts, but it doesn't mean they're all good if you don't have somebody actually there checking and making sure the machine's doing what it's supposed to do.
QC.
That's the key with all CNC stuff is, those bits last a long time, but if someone's there not checking tolerances, even just squeaking out 2 or 3 more,
Yep.
can throw just tolerances out of whack completely.
I mean, just the whole QC process. I think the difference between companies that are superior, it's not necessarily. I mean, they all have the same kind of machinery, but what's your QC? Are you checking things? Are you checking your bits? Are you checking tolerances on product? I think the QC is one of the things that some companies, in my opinion, they start to push to the wayside when they get bigger. What do you think?
I think there's a little bit of both. When they get big fast, they kind of get dollar signs in their eyes and they're chasing that. And they say, make as much as I can, strike while the iron's hot kind of mentality. And sometimes you see the quality go down. If you see a brand build progressively over time, if they're doing it right, like I like to think we are, you're not only investing in equipment and things like that, you're investing in people and technology and better QC standards. You're growing the business as a whole. You're not just putting out more product.
Yeah. You
Dude, I
guys
love
have
to hear that, man.
obviously
That's
adapted with
an American company right there.
That's why I own Yankee Hill products. That right there.
Bravo.
There's other ones that I was pressured into trying out, that are regrettable purchases. I was never pressured into a Yankee Hill purchase. I wanted to try the brands myself, and I don't regret any purchase, and I'll make more. So that's a tip of the cap to you guys and what you guys are doing up there for sure.
Yeah, like I said before, we're all human. We're not some big corporate boardroom who, doesn't even know what a machine looks like. I can go out there and run a lathe. I can go out and run a mill. I can run the welder. I can inspect parts. When things are crazy or if I'm down a person, I'll be sometimes packaging silencers, putting them in boxes and getting them ready to ship because it's got to happen. And sometimes I'm the guy who's got to do it.
And I understand you might not have done everything, but I do want to ask because I can just tell you have a can-do attitude. Is there any specific job or task at Yankee Hill you haven't done yet?
I have not ran the automatic tumblers in the deburring room.
Okay.
I've done pretty much everything else from literally washing urinals to painting walls to oiling parts, assembling parts, running lathes, running machines, engineering, quality, packaging, and management, obviously. But the automated tumblers is one thing that I haven't actually ran myself.
Man, you're tugging at my heartstrings though right there, because it's like I'm a guy I'm not going to tell any of my guys to do something I wouldn't do myself, and lead by example.
Yeah.
And if there's something I haven't done, it's just because timing hasn't worked out yet, and I plan to do that at some point. But or I'm not afraid to do it if I need to jump in. But seeing that and seeing that that's your mentality. I mean, that just speaks volumes. So
yeah, that was something instilled to us as we were kids. My grandfather was a military man, and he always said, you don't ask somebody to do something you wouldn't do yourself.
So I'll say that. So I'm a drill sergeant in the Army, so active duty. And in the drill sergeant creed, it literally says, I will not ask my soldier to do anything that I will not do myself in our creed to be a drill sergeant. So respect.
My grandfather was a forward observer in Korea, and then after the war, he was a drill sergeant.
Respect.
Hell yeah.
So we got woken up to revelry, and first thing we did was make our beds and prepare for inspection.
Right. Get the knife hand.
Knife hand. So before we wrap it up, Chris, is there any news, any products in the pipeline this year that weren't debuted, or anything without giving names and details? Is there anything in the works coming up, or anything you're working on to debut this year, or is everything going to be held off till SHOT Show? What's your thoughts on that kind of stuff?
I mean, NRA and SHOT are always kind of the big ones, and NRA's right around the corner.
Yeah.
So I don't have anything new that'll be announced at NRA. For the average consumer, it'll be the first time for them to meet Bad Larry in person. If you haven't gotten to shoot it at Pew Party or something like that, it's its first really public debut since SHOT Show.
Oh, yeah.
Love that.
But for sometime in the fourth quarter, for SHOT Show, we definitely got a big project coming through that's going very well at this point that we're all really excited for, that I think is going to be huge for YHM.
Can't wait to see that, because we will be at SHOT this year, so we're definitely going to come by and see you on that. But yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait to see that. I can't wait to read all about it and hear what's going on.
Chris, let everybody know where to find Yankee Hill. Plug all your socials, your website, your Instagram. Tell them where to find you guys.
Yeah, so you can check us out at yhm.net. Nice and short and sweet and simple. We've got the entire product lineup up there, whether you're looking for a gas block or a handguard, a complete rifle, or one of our mini sound suppressors. It's all up on yhm.net. And you can follow us on all the major socials at YH Machine Co.
Heck yeah. Dude, we appreciate you coming on, Chris. I know we had to make this happen. It was a lot of talks, and honestly, on behalf of all of us, man, we really appreciate it, guys.
Yeah,
And
thank
Chris, bro, you're welcome back anytime.
Yes.
Absolutely, I'd love to be back.
All right, guys, that's all we have time for today. Big shout out, big thank you to Chris Graham from Yankee Hill coming on. That was a great conversation. And gentlemen, what do we got? Matt, what you got for me?
Yo, if you guys aren't already, you better get over to the Whiskey and Windage Instagram page and check out the game post that's pinned, because next weekend we are doing.
Did you say game or
game post?
Oh, okay,
That's
got it.
pinned.
I'll make sure you said that.
Game
down.
post that's pinned to the top of the account on Whiskey and Windage. We're doing a huge giveaway. That post is just for the grand prize, the Honey Badger. But we have all kinds of great prizes coming down from all of our friends we've made along our 2A journey so far.
Yep.
So tap in. That's going to be May the 5th, Cinco de Mayo party, live on YouTube with Whiskey and Windage. A pile of prizes we got going out to
Oh,
our
yeah.
people.
Mike, what you got?
Hell yeah, dude. That's a good hook right there, Matt. I appreciate that. Calling that out, keeping the people in the know. Man, I think that Chris was a great interview. I think he was a great. He's a great human being. You can just tell. You just spend some time with him and listen to this podcast, like
Nice to
Yeah.
he's a genuinely good dude. The only thing I'll mention other than that is we have moved to Whiskey Wednesdays. If you're still here,
Yeah.
check us out on Wednesdays now. Also, if you're looking to find out where you can watch the show, just go to .com, man. Go to whiskeyandwindage.com, click on podcast. There's all sorts of icons at the top. Just click on one. It's going to take you direct link. So whatever you prefer, it's up there. Also, there's swag there. We have just a couple more days until the May 5th giveaway. Then after that, we are launching the Goon shirt. So Adam, why don't you go ahead and show them the back of this thing? There it is. So
Damn.
yeah, I don't
but
know.
the
Cocktail
front,
fire.
Look at the front. The front. If you're into details.
Yeah, I don't know.
Looks like little AKs and a Molotov in there.
Yeah, I don't know who came up with the idea of a liquor bottle with a ponytail, but it looks cool. That's what my wife said. So, yeah, she was like, "Why does it have a ponytail?" I was like, "It's a
Some
rag."
liquor bottle of a
She was like, "Why does it have a rag?" And I was like,
Well,
"She said, is this illegal?" I was like,
it's frowned upon.
"No, thou shalt not talk about this."
TSA
But,
will really look hard in your bag if you're wearing this
Yeah.
T-shirt. Yeah.
Yes, they will. But other than that, man, shout out to all the new followers. Shout out to the new subscribers.
Yeah.
If you're not subscribing, please go do that. It helps us. It helps us out
Hit the thumbs
immensely.
up.
Yeah, and as far as all the AK goons we had some conversations with over the past week, man, we're getting you riled up because we promise we're going to try to make up for it at some point.
Yeah.
But we are.
Maybe
we are
in
just-
maybe in June. Maybe we can make it up for it in June.
or July. We're just stirring pots. Ooh, hey, does that work?
I can't do it.
No, I can't do it.
We got
Oh,
love.
I got it too.
Fuckers.
Now throw the
Apple,
thumbs up.
Apple.
Double thumbs.
Yeah. I just did something really awkward.
You got to get them closer. You were milking a cow.
We got love for the goons though.
Oh, we
Yeah.
got love
They
for
got
the
in their
goons.
feelings a
and
little
hey,
bit.
try
but-
the ones where you're pulling stuff from the side. Give them thumbs.
Oh God, that's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. Hold on. If you do that one, Adam, me and Matt will stand up. Yeah, we'll make it fun.
Guys, I definitely enjoy this. This is a great time. But I do want to hit one
It's
more
ti-
thing though.
I was
One more
gonna say,
thing, guys.
It's almost time for you to say weapon dangerous. So keep
Kind
going.
of, but one last thing, because there is something new we're doing, and hopefully we do more of them. On YouTube, we do have a shop tour, our first shop tour that I have to do, and hopefully Mike and Mac have to do some as well, and all three of us together in the future. But we do have a shop tour of Alpha Omega Kydex, and guys,
yeah.
go check that out. It's pretty cool, and I
you
think
know
there's-
Matt ain't going to Yankee Hill because he called Chris a.
True, that's true. He did. But
He ain't
guys,
invited.
I think there's gonna be some more shop tours in the future for all of us. Some of us probably separate because we're different parts of the country. But stay tuned for those. But besides that, guys, if you have nothing else, like I would say, stay dangerous, carry a weapon, and we'll talk to you soon.